2 weeks ago tonight, I had an entirely new and frightening experience. I welcomed Shabbat with our friends at Congregation Bavat Ayin in Rosh Ha'ayin. That was not scary. Rabbi Ayala Shashua Miron asked me to explain what's going on in the United States with abortion rights. She and the congregation were mystified, as are many Israelis. Abortion rights in Israel are broad and largely non-controversial. Israelis are not used to Americans having less freedom, apparently on the basis of religion, than Israelis. I haven't gotten to the terrifying part yet. Unless you're new to Congregation B'nai Israel tonight, you know that I am comfortable speaking about abortion rights. Before coming to Arkansas, I was a board chair of Planned Parenthood affiliate in South Texas, and I've written and edited published works on the topic. Still, I was terrified. I would be discussing the matter in Hebrew. No, I didn't have to. I could have spoken English, and the rabbi and others would have translated for me. And they did, in fact, when I couldn't find a word I needed. Thank goodness for Google Translate, since I didn't know the Hebrew word for abortion. Hapala, thank you very much, which is now very much etched on my brain. The Torah portion that week was Pinchas, named for a religious zealot who murders a couple for the crime of sexual relations between an Israelite and a Midianite. The Torah honors that zealotry, but it is analogous to the extremism that is increasingly taking away rights from pregnant people and transgender youth, with more victims in its sight. In short, I was comfortable with my subject, even off the cuff, without preparation, which is not my norm, but not so much with the language. Improving my conversational Hebrew after a 3-year pandemic-induced absence from Israel was a goal of mine for my 3 weeks there this summer, but still, thanks in no small measure to a friendly and forgiving congregation, I did it. New experience. Going outside my comfort zone was a welcome, if unexpected, motif of my time in Israel this year. That theme fits this week's Torah portion, Matot-Mas'ei, at the conclusion of the book of Numbers. Mas'ei is translated as marches, but it could just as well mean journeys, as the portion recounts the Israelites' steps in the months before they reached the promised land. Moses confronts experiences he does not expect. 2 tribes petition to settle on the east side of the Jordan River, technically outside the land of Israel. Moses reacts poorly at first. He assumes that the Gadites and Reubenites are seeking to abandon the other Israelites in their hour of need, as they must conquer the land. The tribes respond, though, that they're prepared to fight, not only fight, but be on the front lines, only that they want to return to fertile fields east of the river after the war. Many lessons have been drawn from this vignette, but the one I would suggest tonight is that unexpected and bad are not synonyms. Challenges must be accepted and then confronted fully and forthrightly before they can be brought to resolution. A sermon in Hebrew was not my only new experience this summer in Israel. I've had very little experience visiting the occupied West Bank, confronting the challenges on the ground there. My son Robert joined me on July 4th as we went to the South Hebron Hills for a day organized by Tru'ah, the rabbinic call for justice. I already knew that the West Bank occupation is unjust, poses daily indignities to Palestinians, and is as much a detriment to Israel's security as to its soul. Seeing with my own eyes the Israeli attempt to drive Palestinians out of the rural areas surrounding the West Bank city of Yaakov brought the Israeli harsh reality home. Robert, my colleagues, and I met Hamdan, an exemplar of resilience in the face of insurmountable challenges. A man with a college education and who's foregone opportunities for what most people would call a better life outside Palestine, Hamdan nevertheless continues to rebuild his home and reestablish access to the fields and water that belong to his family and community and have for centuries. When Jewish Israelis build illegal settlements, that is, illegal under Israeli law, the army establishes wide security zones around them, blocking Palestinians access to their own land. By contrast, when Palestinians rebuild their ancestral homes without a permit, the army typically demolishes them. Even if we accepted that the West Bank occupation cannot safely be ended now, Israel need not tolerate settlers' illegal outposts, and it need not be so cruel to Palestinians living on their ancestral lands. After this experience, I am now more than ever committed to the ongoing effort to shine a light on the tikkun, the repair that Israel must undertake to vouchsafe its future and its soul. As part of my studies at the Shalom Hartman Institute in Jerusalem, I learned with Daniel Hartman, who is increasingly concerned with Israel's projection of power. Rabbi Hartman points to the Genesis creation story, which vests humans with power to rule the earth, and emphasizes that every human being is created b'Tselem Elohim, in the divine image. As an Israeli military veteran, Rabbi Hartman worries that his nation's demonstrations of might do not treat Palestinians as fellow human beings equally, b'Tselem Elohim. I saw that when I made my first ever visit to Lod on a Hartman day trip to a city where Jewish and Palestinian Israelis live side by side, often in the same apartment buildings. Also known in Arabic as Lid, and by its British name Lida, that city was the site of a terrible massacre of Palestinians during the Israeli War of Independence in 1948. There were also horrific massacres of Jews during that war. Just over a year ago, violence broke out there again. Meeting Jews and Palestinians who are devoted to coexistence, even at personal risk, I was heartened. Meeting Palestinians who will not accept a Jewish state that they view as a colonial imposition upon their land and people, and meeting Orthodox Zionist nationalists who have settled in the city with the goal of Judaizing it, I was brought back to the reality that the opponents of coexistence continue to rule the day. Perhaps the least likely of my journeys in Israel this summer was my 2-day retreat to the Arava, the southern Negev desert, with a group from Hebrew Union College. A seminar organized by my seminary does not sound like a departure from my comfort zone, but it was. I would typically regard an assignment to express myself with a collage or clay as, well, silly. I would not, of my own devices, awaken to greet the dawn at 5:30 a.m. twice. And I would not be comfortable with the task to speak out loud to God and later to a deceased relative for 30 minutes with a clear direction to keep talking nonstop no matter what. No, your left-brained, analytical rabbi is not about to become all right-brained and creative. Still, God forbid, but still, I'm grateful for all the opportunities this summer's sabbatical in Israel afforded me. Not only my usual, appreciated this year as much as ever, studying with colleagues and scholars at Hartman and walking mile after mile on the sun-drenched boardwalk beside the Tel Aviv beach, but also giving a sermon in Hebrew, exploring parts of Israel and the occupied territories that make me uncomfortable, and opening myself up to experiencing my own soul in new ways. Matot-Mas'ei and the book of Numbers conclude with a disappointing passage. Earlier, we had learned of the first ever documentation of inheritance rights for women. Now Moses is confronted with another unexpected challenge. What to do about a woman who inherits, who may marry a man from another tribe, therefore transferring the land she's received from the tribe of her birth to the tribe of her husband. Torah's response limits women's rights, all too familiar to us in 2022, even if the particulars are different. These biblical women were required to marry only within their own clans. And then the book of Numbers ends, as has my 2022 summer journey in Israel. Still, neither Torah, nor Jewish history, nor my own journey has ended. The answer that seems final now may not be the last. We take the occasion to affirm Chazak, Chazak, V'nit Chazek. Strong, strong. Let us strengthen one another. Let all of our journeys, however challenging and even disquieting, leave us dreaming of a better future.